Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal Judicial Primary Debates. Here's your host, Victor Jakes.
Hello, I'm Victor Jakes. Welcome to the Las Vegas Review-Journal's Nevada Judicial Debate Series. Today's debate is between two of the three candidates running for Department 28 in Clark County District Court. Joining me are incumbent Judge Ron Israel and challenger Jim Cavanaugh. Alexandra McLeod, the third candidate in this race, didn't accept an invitation to debate. Before we begin, a word on the format. We are conducting this debate over Zoom in response to the coronavirus outbreak, and we urge everyone to take precautions to keep each other safe and healthy. We'll start by giving each candidate a 1-minute opening statement. Judge Israel, we'll begin with you.
Well, Victor, thanks for having us for this debate. I appreciate it, and I wish everyone good health. My name, once again, is Ron Israel, and I'm the District Court Judge in Department 28, and I'm seeking re-election. I've been an attorney in Clark County for 38 years. Before opening my own practice, I was an arbitrator, a mediator, and a short trial judge. For the past 10 years, I've been a District Court Judge in Department 28, and currently I handle a civil criminal calendar. I'm on the FBI Citizens Academy, and I'm on the board of directors of the Anti-Defamation League. I want to explain to everyone that the Clark County court system is open and running, even though there's been some changes. This afternoon, I had a criminal calendar, and we did it by video conference. We're conducting business even during this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge Israel. Jim, go ahead.
My name is James E. Cavanaugh. I go by Jim. I've been an attorney in Las Vegas for a little over 20 years. I came from California, Southern California, where I practiced 7 years before. I'm primarily a commercial litigator, but I have experience in a variety of areas as well. I've been fortunate to work at small firms as well as large firms. I work for one of the largest firms in the country currently, Gordon Rees. I've worked on some very prominent cases in the city of Las Vegas, including the MGM City Center case and the October 1st shooting matter. I have decided to run for judge because I feel like I can do a very good job openly and unbiased application of the law with respect to all litigants and the parties that appear before me.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. Judge Israel, this first question is for you. Will you describe your judicial philosophy, including if you view the Constitution as a living document or if you believe a judge needs to uphold the original meaning of the text?
Well, first of all, my judicial philosophy is to follow the law. Even in the Bible, it says, justice, justice, so shall you pursue. If we follow the law, we are not going to be discriminating against anyone because we're doing it blindly. Now, as to following the Constitution, I feel it is a living document, and the Supreme Court has, on many occasions, agreed with that, given the fact that we're in the 21st century. Computers weren't even thought of in imagination back then. So a lot of things have to change and we have to adapt. But we use the Constitution as the basis for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge Israel. Jim, what about you? Do you agree with the judge that it's a living document, or are you more of an originalist?
Well, I think I'm probably somewhere in between. The law is what the law says it is, and the courts are the last arbiter of what the law is, of course. I think the touchstone of applying the law fairly, without bias, applying laws that are meant to be neutral to begin with, is the touchstone of any philosophy with regard to judicial decisions. When you're open and fair to all the parties, that's the touchstone. I don't know that the district court judges at the trial court level have a great opportunity within any kind of reason to be applying their own interpretations of the law. And I would interpret the law to be what it says it is.
Thank you, Jim. And this question is going to be for you first. One area where district court judges do have a lot of discretion is in issuing sentences. Now, while acknowledging that every case is different, do you think your sentences will tend to be more strict or more lenient?
Well, I think it's probably sounding trite, and other candidates have said the same thing, but I think each case stands on its own in some respect. Law, of course, is the same, but all the parties, and including criminal defendants, are different. Different circumstances merit different considerations in sentencing. Nonviolent offenses, property crimes, while serious, may not always merit jail time. And Judge Hardesty, and you didn't ask about bail, but Justice Hardesty, the Nevada Supreme Court, has frequently been quoted as saying, bail means jail. And I think among the choices we have, I think it's a case-by-case decision that every judge has to make at the time.
Thank you very much, Jim. Judge Israel, you've been on the bench for a number of years. How do you compare to your peers in terms of handing out sentences?
Well, I think the general public doesn't understand that probably 90% of the cases are negotiated, and therefore I don't have a lot of say in what's going to happen in that regard. And the cases where, say, the district attorney has no recommendation, we have what's called a PSI, and that's the parole and probation has done recommendations of their own based on a scoring system. Most of the time we follow that. If you were to ask me if I was conservative when it comes to sentencing, the answer is probably yes. That's because most of my career was civil, and being thrown into this system, I do see a lot of things that are, if you will, frightening to the public. And when it comes to sentencing, I can be somewhat strict. You'd be surprised with what we see.
Thank you very much, Judge. And our judicial primary debates will continue in a moment.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
Like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
Welcome back to our judicial primary debates. Judge Israel, this question is for you. In a 2019 survey of Clark County lawyers conducted by the Review Journal, you received the second lowest retention score. Just 46% of responding attorneys thought you should be retained. In regards to criminal law, one lawyer said in essence that you do not follow the law or appear to understand it. With reviews like that, why should voters reelect you?
Well, first of all, as you well know, the Review Journal is not a survey, it's a popularity poll conducted by the Review Journal. In fact, after almost 6 weeks, they didn't even have enough people responding, so they had to extend the time another month. Only people who wanted to make their voice known, and I think if you look at the actual surveys, you'll see, in fact, one person obviously did 4 responses. They were virtually identical. I think if the RJ was to look at who actually responded, and they're the only ones who know this blind response, they were potentially or very likely insurance defense people. And since I have 30 years as a plaintiff's attorney, they may not like my decisions. But I have not been overturned on a personal injury case in 10 years.
Thank you very much. Jim, does that explanation satisfy you? Do you think that Judge Israel has done an acceptable job?
I think Judge Israel is a good man, but I'm primarily running because I believe he's not, sadly. His retention score indicates that over half of the attorneys the Review Journal surveyed believe he should not be retained. And his summaries, that's the second lowest out of 32 Clark County District Court judges scored in the judging the judges. What's more, his summary score is tied for the lowest, given the various attributes that the local bar believes a judge should have. It's kind of a follow-up to a situation that I think, unfortunately began some years ago. In 2013, Judge Israel had the nature of 46 peremptory challenges by attorneys. These are not indications that the bar believes Judge Israel should be retained and is doing a good job.
Thank you, Jim. Judge Israel, I want to give you 30 seconds to respond to that.
Thank you. As Mr. Cavanaugh said, out of last year's, I believe it was 41 preempts, 37 of those were by out-of-state insurance defense firms on personal injury cases. Now, if you look at the actual trials I've done, practically 50-50 have been both for the plaintiff and the defendant. And as I reiterate, the Supreme Court has not overturned one single case in the 10 years. I've done 104 trials, and one trial was overturned, and that was a collection case by a casino. So the Supreme Court agrees with me.
Thank you very much, Judge. Jim, I want to turn a little bit to your biography. It says that you have over 25 years of experience in construction defect and commercial litigation. If you're concerned that that lawyers are recusing themselves for Judge Israel, won't they recuse themselves for you because you've defended so many big businesses over the years?
I suppose that's a possibility. I think I've got a reputation among the people I've worked with to be somebody who's fair and forthright. I've never had a complaint by a client in over 26 years to either the California or the Nevada bar. Not that that's a big threshold, but that's a fact. I don't anticipate having the kind of, so I think the problem has come from perhaps a respect issue for counsel. I don't know the makeup of the 900 or however many Clark County attorneys took part in these surveys, but when you have over half of the bar rating you as non-retainable and having the lowest summary score, that means something, and they're not being filled out by out-of-state pro hoc vice judges. These are local attorneys filling these out.
Thank you, Jim. Judges, I want to give you a chance to respond, but I also want to ask you this. Obviously you think you're the best candidate, but do you think Jim or Alexandria, the third candidate in this race, either of them are unqualified to serve on the bench?
Well, Alexandra, as of July, only had 2 trials in her career. I wouldn't recommend nor would I think that a judge is qualified after having 2 trials ever. I had 10 trials before I took the bench, along with 10 short trials as a short trial judge. But to talk with Mr. Cavanaugh, he should know, I would imagine, that there are about 9,000 practicing attorneys, and there was 200 responses in total, approximately 200 responses in total to the RJ survey. What is that, less than 1%? No, my math is off, but it's not that large. I think that Mr. Cavanaugh is a very nice man. I don't think I've ever seen him in my courtroom, and I don't know anybody who knows him. He has been in the construction defect area, and that's great, but that's not a very well-rounded career.
And Jim, I want to give you 30 seconds to respond to that. Has your career been too narrowly focused to make you an effective judge?
I don't think so at all. I've had the experience to have some very large cases. Cases I'm in typically are all consuming with multiple attorneys on them. City Center, the shooting, Queens Ridge. I've been involved in school district abuse cases, malpractice cases, both design professionals and attorneys. I've done a lot of personal injury, wrongful death work. I have a judicial rating of AV preeminent by Martindale Hubbell, Judicial Edition, meaning judges weighed in and participated in rating me. I know very few people with a Martindale Hubbell who have a Judicial Edition added to that rating.
Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after these messages.
For all your Raiders news,
veterans on this team.
like us on Facebook, download the Vegas Nation app, and go to vegasnation.com.
And welcome back to our judicial primary debate. Judge Israel, this question is for you. The effects of coronavirus have been far-reaching, and the judicial system certainly hasn't been immune from that. Judges in places ranging from New Jersey to Texas to California have ordered some nonviolent inmates released. Should Nevada judges be releasing nonviolent inmates here in Nevada?
Well, generally speaking, the system allows for nonviolent offenders to be released either on OR or bail or limited restrictions. So certainly that's in place, and it has been in place. I would encourage the furtherance of that process. We should be releasing nonviolent offenders. Violent offenders are a different case, and certainly that needs to be considered. But given the standards that have been imposed for the 2 years I've been doing criminal, nonviolent offenders are, and low risk, by the way, should be released.
Thank you very much. Jim, what about you? Is it appropriate to release nonviolent inmates with or without the coronavirus going around?
Well, these are extraordinary times. I think we all have to step back and take that into consideration. Given what I've come to know from the outside looking in of the overcrowded situations and detention, I think I would agree with most of what Judge Israel just said. And I think especially in these times, taking away somebody's liberty and exposing them to perhaps life-threatening health conditions just doesn't seem fair or appropriate at this time. And just in general, I think nonviolent property crime offenders, depending on circumstances and each individual, is I believe different. I think those considerations would often indicate not incarcerating them, but perhaps a monitor or a check-in system or just an assessment of their likelihood that they will not appear.
Thank you. And I want to do a quick 30-second follow-up on this question to each of you. As you know, there's been a push in many states, including Nevada, to reduce or eliminate cash bail. And with the caveat that as a judge, you will follow the law. And Jim, we'll start with you. Do you think cash bail is needed for non-violent offenders?
Again, I want to have the discretion to consider all the circumstances, but in general, I think the goal should be to move away from the cash bail system. And I agree with much what I have read that Justice Hardesty has advocated. And the California system may not be all the way in line with his thinking, but I do believe cash bail means jail for too many people, and it ruins too many lives.
Thank you, Jim. Judge Israel, what are your thoughts on cash bail?
Well, as you know, Mr. Cavanaugh is correct. Justice Hardesty has been encouraging, and the Supreme Court has come down with, if you will, new guidelines regarding that. And we're encouraged to give OR releases. However, nonviolent crimes don't necessarily encompass what you might think. I had today in court someone, it was a nonviolent crime. They were caught with 30 pounds of methamphetamine. Now, that's street values in the hundreds of thousands. A OR release on that probably isn't appropriate.
Thank you.
That could kill 1,000 people.
Thank you very much, Judge Israel. Stay tuned. We'll be back for our final segment in just a moment. Welcome back to our Nevada Judicial Primary Debates. Judge Israel, you've been a judge for a number of years. What do you want your legacy to be? And I've only got about 15 seconds here.
Well, being a judge is one of the proudest parts of my career. I handled the endoscopy trial #2 and several other cases working on the MGM fire. And I hope everyone will think about that. And I have worked hard for Clark County.
Thank you. And Jim, if you are elected, what do you want your legacy to be?
I want to be thought of as somebody who's fair and who aggressively ensured that people's rights are protected in my courtroom.
Thank you. And we're going to move to closing statements. Jim, we'll begin with you. 30 seconds.
I have given this a lot of thought. It's a opportunity of a lifetime for me personally, but I think I can do a good job for the citizens of Clark County and Department 28, and I will always follow the Judicial Conduct Code and apply the law fairly and openly. I'll be prepared. I'll leave clear records, and I will make every litigant and attorney feel respected in my courtroom.
Thank you, Jim. Judge Israel?
I would encourage everyone to go to the Supreme Court annual report. They can get my objective statistics as how I've done on the bench, case closures, time to trial. All of those things are so important that the Supreme Court keeps track of them. And I'm in the top 25% in all of those categories. I certainly hope that they vote to re-elect me. I've done my best on the bench, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Judge. Remember, you can find this program and more information on all the judicial races at reviewjournal.com. I'll see you next time.